Okay, so do you mind introducing yourself first for those who may be watching?
Hello, my name is Viraj Rajadhyaksha. I work as the Area Medical Director in AstraZeneca, and I'm also a member of the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Medicine and currently a co-convener of the Global Forum. I've had several years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry across geographies, across therapy areas, and across functions, predominantly in medical affairs, but also in clinical research.
Great, so my first question is, you attended the FPM Education Day. So how was your experience of your first in-person event?
Yeah, first and foremost, I would like to thank the faculty for inviting me to moderate a session on a very exciting topic that we had co-authored as a team on 7+ habits of highly effective medical directors. And I will go to that point later. This meeting was really very good because this was, I think, the first meeting in 2 years or 3 years, which was face-to-face. It provided a lot of insights into real world data, real world evidence. Sometimes we use these terminologies synonymously. Understanding what are the differences, understanding the value that real world evidence provides to the whole field of evidence-based medicine. We also realized how decisions, clinical decisions, policy shaping can occur on the basis of evidence-based medicine. And we also looked at what could be the regulators' perspectives and how regulators are changing their thoughts on accepting this type of data. Secondly, this also provided a very good forum for people to share thoughts with each other, learn from each other. We've all been in isolation, frankly speaking. I would say intelligent isolation for the last 3 years. And this is an excellent program for us to reflect on what we have learned during the pandemic and how we can enrich each other's thoughts. So I would say two clear areas. One is, of course, understanding the science of real world evidence and the practice. But more importantly is also learning best practices from each other, what has worked, what has not worked, and what each of us are working on in the future. So I would say an intelligence bonanza was something that I could really look at that day.
That's wonderful to hear. So since there was so much that was said during the day, what was your key take-home message from the day altogether?
Yeah, I think one or two key messages that is that real world evidence is here to stay. It is not clinical trials or real world evidence. It is how these would be merged eventually in the development of new innovative medicines. The second message that we got is that there is a far more wider acceptance of real world evidence than what we are thinking of. But at the same time, there is work to do. So in areas of patient interactions, in areas of policy shaping, there is a lot of work for us to do together.
Fantastic. And what do you think is the future for real world evidence then?
Couple of points here. One is real world evidence depends, of course, on what is the quality of the basic data. And we should be working together across industries, across functions to improve the quality of data which exists. Because if the quality of the data is not good, then what you're going to get out is not going to be optimum in any way. Number two is how do you make the data analyzable? And here, I think the role of electronic databases, how can you convert these databases into very quick evidence? That is the second area for us to work on. Thirdly, I would say in specific areas such as rare diseases and even particular types of cancers in early drug development, real world evidence would start much earlier. It will not be there in phase 4 only. It would be along with phase 2 and phase 3 and help in the overall positioning of the product, understanding of the new treatment that is available. And hence, if we involve key stakeholders like regulators, HCPs, patient groups, governments, payers, and convince them on the value of real world evidence, and of course, meaning for that the quality of that evidence has to be really good, then they will be able to understand and probably bring those innovative medicines much earlier for patients and caregivers.
Amazing. And I know that you ran a 7 Secrets workshop. What do you think the delegates responded to most during that workshop? And would you like to share any of the key points from it?
Yeah, so this is not 7 secrets. It was actually an article on 7+ habits of highly effective medical directors. All of us have been mainly physicians, before we entered the industry. And when you enter the industry, you are then exposed to leadership and a couple of these concepts. And very early in my career, I read this book by Stephen Covey, which is like the mantra of leadership even now, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And last year, as our team in AstraZeneca, we were working together, we suddenly realized that can we try to develop a similar format for medical directors? So we came together during the pandemic. Can you imagine? So this article was written virtually with people ranging from Latin America to UK to Asia to Russia and Africa. So you can imagine this was represented by all the countries. And we wrote this article, which was later on published in Pharmaceutical Medicine last year, and it has been one of the most downloaded articles in the journal for 2021 and first half of 22. So we focused on 7 important skills that would be necessary for medical directors to be very successful in their roles. And there are certain things like how do you synergize and partner with multiple and new stakeholders. Number 2 is, the whole concept of time management and how do you prioritize. The third thing was how can you be creative? We use creativity, innovation very easily, but are you really creative? Are you thinking of solutions for the end user? So that was one thing. The fourth aspect was related to mainly the breadth of pharmaceutical medicine, which is increasing. It is no longer restricted to drugs. It is drugs, devices, and even healthcare solutions. We are working with the technology companies, who are developing AI-based solutions in early screening and diagnosis. And how do you have a different mindset of working with these type of people? And then one of our colleagues, a very close friend of mine, said that it is not only 7, it is 7+. And what is that plus? So that plus is all about people. And as medical directors, we are not only science and therapy experts, but we are also people managers and people leaders. So the last aspect of this article focused on how do we bring the team together and how do you add value to the people and how does that team add value to us as well through active listening, being more open to different ideas, having a candid discussion on what is right and what is wrong. So I would say that today medical directors have 4 different roles. They have to play a role of scientific expert. They have to play a role of a conscience keeper because governance ends with them. They have to play a role of a people manager and being a head of a team. And fourthly is they have to be the face of the company to the external world and probably face of the healthcare sector to the external world. In fact, I would say a successful medical director should not restrict himself or herself to being the face of the organization in the external world, but you should be the face of pharmaceutical medicine. You should be the face of healthcare to a far broader society who does not understand these concepts. So I would really request, all of you to read this article. This workshop focused on how do you imbibe these skills into your day-to-day working, and I was really happy to see so much of interactions. We had a discussion of about 1 hour where people raised questions on how do you address these difficult issues, how do you manage things in a cross-cultural environment, how do you create your own impact, how do you create your own position compared to commercial teams or compared to other teams. So this was a very, very interactive session. And I myself learned a lot. Probably based on those inputs, couple of years from now, we will try to come out with a second version of this article, which also tries to incorporate some of these learnings.
Fantastic. I'm so glad to hear all of this, and it's really insightful. So I guess my final or penultimate question would be, what would you like the future of in-person FPM events to look like?
I would say we should do more of these. Yes, meaning it is an annual event, but if possible, we should do it at least twice a year. Number 2 is a combination of lectures. So people have to be exposed to new concepts in the field of healthcare and how our industry is moving. So there has to be, good amount of lectures or science and operational aspects of pharmaceutical medicine. And then we also keep sufficient time as in the workshops as we had organized and conducted to create more of an interactions. This would be my second point. And at the end of it, I would really encourage participants to write more, based on their experiences. There are ample avenues today in literature, in the field of publications, in the field of social media, where you can make yourself more visible and share with people on the wonderful work that you are doing. So, and a purely educational part in terms of lectures by some of the top experts, and also people who have experience. Number two is workshops and brainstorming discussions on what is right, what is wrong, and at the end of it, coming out with some type of a policy paper or a publication would be something that I could look at. And there are few examples that I'm just thinking about: artificial intelligence, healthcare solutions, what happens to patient and patient rights and community rights in an era of social media. These are some of the topics that could be of possible interest.
Okay, fantastic. And the final question is, what would you say to someone who is considering attending the next in-person FPM event but is unsure?
I really don't see any reason why people should be unsure. If you are a pharmaceutical physician, if this is your job, if this is what you like to do, you should be attending these events. You should be attending these events for 3-4 reasons. Number one is to understand how new developments are occurring. Sometimes in an organization, we are not that exposed to the external world. Number two is also to look at what other people are doing and learning from others. Ours is a lifelong journey. Learning is a lifelong journey for us. If you say that I have stopped learning, well, you are not going to develop. So that is not good. And the third most important is network. Talk to people, and network not only with an intention of moving to a new role or something. Network is also about learning and understanding, other people's perspectives. So these would be the 3 reasons. If there is somebody who is still not convinced that I should be attending FPM Education Day, I'm ready to have a tea or a coffee with him or her and explain it to him. But of course, it also means that the faculty develops high-class programs which are of value. And they are forward looking. They are not looking, on our traditional topics. They are looking at new topics and how we are adding value to the whole environment. So really looking forward for the next Education Day program. And I hope that the faculty invites me to moderate a session.